What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. We continue with our 2025 predictions for the upcoming 2025 college football season. Up next is the Northwestern Wildcats. Northwestern, of course, coming off a pretty tough year last year and also kind of a disappointing season, going 4-8 overall in 2024, so not making it to a bowl game. After they did it a couple years ago, they were actually a surprise team a couple of years ago. But last year with the new Big Ten, I guess it did caught up to them a little bit to have a pretty rough year. The schedule was pretty tough last year. It's kind of a tough schedule again, but you look at this team for 2025, this is a Northwestern team that I do expect to turn things around this year. First off, you got Preston Stone taking over at quarterback. I think he's a pretty big upgrade at the quarterback position, and then everywhere else, offensively, not really any major weaknesses. I don't really see any concerns, but yeah, everybody does have a weakness, but I don't really see any major concerns on the offensive side of the football. Same thing with the defense. Now, this is not going to be a really talented Northwestern team. We know that, but they could be a competitive team nonetheless, and I do expect them to turn things around in 2025. Again, I don't really think they're going to be a sneaky, like dark horse team or anything like that, or even a top contender. I just think they'll be competitive in some big games this year. Here's a look at their schedule for 2025. Again, the Wildcats, they were 4-8 last year in 2024. So let's go game by game, and I'll give you my official prediction for this Northwestern football team for 2025. First two games of the year, except for one, Tulane on the road, and then you got Western Illinois. The Western Illinois game, I think, is going to be a pretty easy win. That's a game where I think the Wildcats will win by at least over 3 touchdowns. They could probably win that one by 30 or 40. But Tulane here, I don't think it will be an easy game for Northwestern. That's not going to be a game where Northwestern's going to probably win by a blowout. It could be a game where it's pretty close in the first half, but second half, I think the Wildcats definitely are the better team. Again, Tulane is a respectable group of 5 team, and with this one being on the road, it could be a little bit tricky of a game to start out the year for the Wildcats, but still, I think it's probably close in the first half, but then Northwestern will probably pull away from this Tulane team, and they'll probably still win it by at least a couple of touchdowns. So I think they win their first couple of games here on August 30th and September 6th against Tulane and Western Illinois. That's going to get them off to a 2-0 start. Then they play Oregon here on September 13th to open up Big Ten Conference play. This will be a home game here for the Wildcats, potentially a game where the Wildcats actually could surprise Oregon a little bit here. Obviously, we do know that the Ducks are going to have a new quarterback in Dante Moore, and he hasn't really played a Big Ten game by this point probably, and he also will play his first kind of road test, but it's not a really tough place to play at Northwestern. I mean, Northwestern will come in fired up because this is a Oregon team that could potentially be a top 10 team, and they also could be a top 5 team as well. But, the talent is there for this Oregon team. I just think it's too much here for the Wildcats. Maybe they are competitive here in the first, half or 80, something like that, or they could be probably competitive just in the first quarter, and then the Ducks kind of, start to get used to the road environment, and then Dante Moore does make some plays at the end of the day. So I think Oregon does win this game. I'm going to say they only win it, though, by 14 to 17 points. I don't really expect a blowout. I just do expect the Ducks probably to pull away, and their defense will probably step up as well. So I got the Ducks winning that game, and then Northwestern will get a bye week, so they do kind of, get some time to recover, especially after playing a physical Oregon team. Yeah, when you play a talented team from last week, you definitely want to, take a break after getting a little bit beat up. They do play UCLA coming out of the bye week here on September 27th. A UCLA team that's kind of similar to Northwestern. I do expect them to kind of, be a sneaky good team in the Big Ten, but again, not a dark horse team or even a top contender in the Big Ten. I just do expect this team to kind of turn things around this year. UCLA, though, this is a home game, though, for Northwestern. I think it's a pretty even matchup. 50-50 game. I think the Wildcats' bye week does help them out, and I think they beat UCLA here in a bounce-back win after the loss to Oregon from a couple of weeks ago, and I got Northwestern winning that game. So they get their first Big Ten win there on September 27th. Then they take care of business against ULM Monroe. That's their other non-conference game. They don't really have a tough non-conference conference schedule at all, and they will, of course, improve to 4-1. Then they play on the road at Penn State next here on October the 11th. Very tough place to play. I don't really expect much of a fight here from the Wildcats in this one. Penn State obviously is a very tough place to play, and yeah, Penn State's going to have a ton of production coming back on both sides of the football. So yeah, I don't really expect this one to be all that close. I think Penn State wins this one by at least like 14 to 17 points as well, and that's going to drop Northwestern now to 4-2. Then they play at home against Purdue on October 18th. Purdue team that you got Barry Odom taking over as the head coach. Purdue, can they be a little bit better this year under Barry Odom? It's hard to tell. I just don't know if I expect this team to be all that great. But you come into this game the next week, if you're Northwestern, you're maybe a little bit beat up, especially after playing a tough road game against Penn State. Maybe they get off to a slow start. Purdue kind of catches them by surprise. But I think Northwestern clearly is the better team. I think they do pull away and win this one by a couple of touchdowns, and I think they beat Purdue. That's going to put them at 5-2. And then you look at the schedule here for the rest of the way. From October 25th to November 29th, this 5-game stretch is going to be pretty difficult for Northwestern. They got Nebraska, though, first here on the road on October the 25th. A Nebraska team that's kind of similar to Northwestern. I think Nebraska is going to be a little bit of a sneaky good team as well in the Big Ten. They got Dylan Raiola back at quarterback, so this could be a matchup here between the veteran quarterback and then also a young quarterback. You got, of course, Dylan Raiola that took over as a freshman last year. I think he's going to have a pretty good season. I mean, if he can stay consistent, I think this Nebraska team will actually be a sneaky good team in the Big Ten. This one was a really tough one to call when I did my Nebraska video. I mean, I think both teams are maybe slightly even. Nebraska, though, maybe has a little bit more talent of advantage over Northwestern, but still, I think Nebraska playing at home, that's really the difference here. I think it's a close game, but I'm going to go with the Cornhuskers here to win this one, so I'm going to go with Nebraska in that game, and that's going to give Northwestern their third loss of the year, and that's going to put them at 5-3. Then they get their second bye week before going out west to play USC on November 8th. They got back-to-back road games here, but not in between, back-to-back weeks. They do have a bye week in between these back-to-back road games, and then also it kind of gives you time to, get ready for the travel out west and everything. But this USC team, I just think they're too talented. I think this will be a close game for Northwestern. If they could slow the game down and run the football and, keep that USC offense off the field, this could be a closer game. It probably could be a low-scoring defensive game. The problem is, though, the Trojans could have a better defense this year. So, yeah, USC, I think they're the more talented team here. I think Northwestern does keep it close for the most part, but USC, I think, will win it here. And, again, traveling out west is really difficult to do, and we saw that, of course, last year with some of these teams. So I think Northwestern does drop to USC, and that's going to put them at 5-4. Then they come back at home to face Michigan on November 15th. Another big game here for Northwestern. It's really basically their second biggest home game of the season, since that Oregon game from September the 13th. Yeah, Michigan obviously going to have a freshman quarterback. You got Bryce Underwood taking over. Maybe he does have a pretty tough time in this one, and Northwestern could potentially pull off an upset. But I think by this time here in the month of November, Bryce Underwood kind of shows us why he is the top quarterback coming out of high school, and I also think he's going to probably play better football by this time as well. So yeah, Michigan I think will win this game, but I do expect Northwestern to keep it close throughout all four quarters. I wouldn't be surprised if the Wildcats did pull off an upset here against the Wolverines, but I just like the physicality of this Michigan team, and again, I think Bryce Underwood does make some big plays in this game at the end of the day, so I'm going Michigan here in this one. So that's 3 losses in a row for the Wildcats after like a 5-2 record going into that five game stretch here. Minnesota, though, coming up next here on November 22nd. This will be a home game for the Wildcats. I do expect Northwestern to kind of bounce back here after 3 losses in a row. Minnesota is going to be a sneaky good team as well, kind of similar to the Wildcats and Northwestern. They'll be a sneaky good team, but I don't think they're a dark horse team or even a top contender for that matter. But yeah, I think Northwestern playing at home, pretty even matchup here. I think it's a close game. It probably is a lower scoring game because both teams will probably want to run the football. But I got to go with Northwestern because of the home field advantage. And like I said, I think they kind of want to, they're kind of desperate for a win at this point, and they definitely want to get that 6th win in order to make it to a bowl game. So that's going to put them at 6-5. And then the final game on the season is on the road at Illinois on November 29th. An Illinois team that has a ton of production coming back. They could be very good this year. This is a very tough place to play, but I think Northwestern will keep this a close game. The Wildcats will definitely make Illinois pretty much, have a lot of trouble in this one. Yeah, Illinois could be ranked in the top 15 by this point, but yeah, Illinois, though, I think they probably pull away sometime in the 4th quarter, and they do probably win it by like 7 to 10 points, somewhere in that particular range, and I think Illinois gets it done here. So Illinois playing at home does get the win, so I got Northwestern losing that final game of the season, but I do got this team going to a bowl game at 6-6. Again, definitely a turnaround from where they were last year. This is a pretty tough schedule. You got some very tough road games with Penn State, Nebraska, USC, and then Illinois. Maybe they pull off one of those games on the road. I think the best possible chance is probably against Illinois or Nebraska, though. Penn State and USC are both very tough places to play, and you never know about that Oregon game. Maybe they pull off a slight upset in that game, or even Michigan. Maybe they pull off an upset and they probably go like 7-5 or even 8-4. I mean, that's really possible for this Northwestern team, but I got this team going 6-6. So that's my prediction here for Northwestern for 2025. Do you guys agree or disagree with this prediction? Give me your prediction for the Wildcats down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.